For those who don't know, I'm Vincent Doxia. I'm the provost, and this is the University Scholar Series. Excited to have Dr. Souvick Ghosh Vic here with us today. We got a couple of things to cover, and then we'll get into his presentation, which I'm really excited about. But before we begin, we always like to start with our land acknowledgement. While we gather at San Jose State, we are gathered on the ethno-historic tribal territory of the Tamian Ohlone, who are the direct ancestors of the lineages enrolled in the Muwekma Ohlone tribe and are missionized into the Mission Santa Clara, San Jose, and Dolores. The lands on which San Jose State University is established was and continues to be of significance to the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. We also recognize that the ancestors of the Muwekma Ohlone constructed and maintained the three Bay Area missions. Our campus extends to surrounding areas that held a tupantak, a traditional roundhouse, which were once located at the historic Lope Yingos land grant Rancho Poslami y Positos de la Animas, the Little Wellesos, and also the Maceo, Pio, and Cristobal's land grant Rancho Ulisac, which were places of celebration and religious ceremonies, as well as nearby ancestral heritage shell mounds that serves as the tribe's traditional cemetery sites and territorial monuments. San Jose State University also desires to honor the military service of the Muwekma Ohlone, who've honorably served overseas during World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, and who are still serving the United States Armed Forces today. So we have a couple of quick announcements. The webinar is being recorded, and we do post it. And because not only do we like to capture the information and make sure everybody gets to it, that we have it in perpetuity. Also, if you want to ask a question, we're using the Q&A function, and we'll curate those at the end of the presentation. This is sponsored by the Office of the Provost, the King Library, the School of Information, and the Division of Research and Innovation. So my thanks there. And my thanks to the entire team in the library that helps put together this webinar. So thank you. Now I get to introduce our speaker. So Dr. Ghosh is assistant professor in the School of Information. He joined us in 2020, has a PhD from Rutgers University. He works in some really interesting and timely areas. And as we move into a world that's more plugged in, the ethical questions around how to use artificial intelligence are going to become more important. But his work intersects conversational search systems, ethical AI, and human-computer interaction, or HCI. He also integrates deep learning and natural language processing into various experimental designs as he works at the intersection of human information behavior. He's published in numerous places already, and he's even published with students, which is really exciting, bringing them into the conversation. So it's just a thrill to have Dr. Ghosh here. I'm really looking forward to his talk, titled Bridging Socio-Technical Divides, Trustworthy AI for Community Well-Being and Fair Decision-Making. Dr. Ghosh.
Thank you, Provost Del Casino, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm really excited, and I would like to again begin by thanking the Risk Advisory Council and Provost Del Casino for selecting me for this talk, and CIDS Associate Dean Dr. Sandy Hirsch for nominating me. And I'm Dr. Souvick Ghosh, and I usually go by Vic, so feel free to call me that. And I'm from the School of Information at San Jose State University. And in this today's talk, I'll be discussing the role of trustworthy AI in fostering community well-being and supporting fair decision-making process. So how I'm envisioning it, I'll introduce some of the key terms, introductory terms. So for those of you who are not aware of those terms, so I'll just do that quick introduction, and then I'll jump into some of my projects, which I'm already working on. And then I'll provide some introduction to some of the new projects which I've been developing. And the goal is, if you're listening to this talk, if you want to collaborate, so feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, so AI systems, as we know them, they're increasingly integral to the societal structures. And we can see their applications going from healthcare to education to finance and law enforcement. However, what we see is these systems, they don't operate in vacuum. They interact with complex human and societal dynamics. And this presentation explores what it means to build AI systems that are trustworthy, and AI that doesn't merely function, but serves communities in ways that are fair, ethical, and aligned with social values. So the illustration, as you can see on the right side of this slide, it captures this vision. And I generated almost all the pictures in today's slides using DALL-E. And in this picture, we can see it's a cityscape representing the diverse communities. We can see the people walking by and the technology interwoven into the daily life of people. And the brain symbol, which you see adorned with hexagonal patterns, that symbolizes AI's role in shaping societal structures. As we move through this talk, I hope to offer insights into how trustworthy AI can bridge divides rather than deepen those different divisions among people and society, and how it can address issues like bias, transparency, and equitable outcomes. So when I think of my research, and I must relate to the sense-making approach, which was developed by Brenda Darwin. And this is foundational to understanding how people process complex information in real-world contexts. And sense-making is a theory which is very popular in information science, and it emphasizes the active role individuals play in constructing meaning from information, rather than seeing information transfer as linear, which would be simply receiving the message. Sense-making acknowledges that people must interpret, contextualize, and sometimes even struggle to make sense of this new knowledge. The essence of Darwin's approach lies in the idea that people do not passively receive information, but actively construct meaning through a series of steps. And we call those steps as bridges, which are across these gaps in their understanding. These gaps, they represent moments of uncertainty or confusion that arise when individuals encounter new or ambiguous information. Sense-making is the process of building a bridge. You can imagine the bridge as we have. Let me turn on my laser pointer. Yes. So it's this bridge across this gap. And our goal is to create coherence and enable action in the face of complexity. Now, in the context of AI, this concept has become especially relevant, and AI technologies, they're evolving rapidly. And even for people who are in academia like us or people in industry, it's a very hard job to keep up pace with those information, with those knowledge, with all the new papers which are being published every day. And so these applications, they are becoming deeply embedded in societal functions. Now, this complexity, it creates gaps. And these gaps, again, are moments of uncertainty, ethical dilemmas, or even technical limitations which we face. And we must bridge those to make AI trustworthy and aligned with our social goals. Now, these gaps are not just technical, but they are very much social, very much ethical, and touching on issues like transparency, accountability, and fairness. Now, again, the image here is a metaphorical representation of this bridging process. And on one side, we have the social knowledge and grounded in human values, ethics, cultural understandings. But on the other side, we can see technical knowledge, which encompasses the skills and insights required to develop and implement AI systems. This bridge symbolizes the interdisciplinary and multifaceted approach which we need to connect those two realms. My research, as we will explore in the coming slides, aims to establish this bridge by addressing both the technical challenges of AI and the societal challenges and how we can overcome them through the use of AI technology. Now, the concept of trustworthy AI, it's not new. It has been there for a while, and it refers to artificial intelligence systems that are transparent, fair, reliable, and accountable. And this is just a quote from IBM. I'm not going to read out the quote, but you can see it. And these systems, they align with ethical principles that ensure safety, respect for human rights, and societal well-being. Essentially, for AI to be broadly accepted and serve the public good, it must be engineered and deployed in ways that promote trust and adhere to high ethical standards. The diagram on this slide, it's this from this paper by Lee et al. And so this illustrates the interconnected elements of trustworthy AI framework, capturing both the technical and the ethical dimensions. It highlights that trustworthy AI is about balancing various requirements that may sometimes conflict with each other. And if you see in this diagram, we have some conflicts. These dotted lines, they show how certain technical properties could actually conflict with some of the desired ethical properties. And I'll go over them. And ensuring transparency and explainability for one. So you can see this two kind of like bubbles here. It's crucial for stakeholders to understand and trust AI decisions. However, these aspects might involve trade-offs with privacy or security. So the framework underscores that trustworthy AI isn't achieved by focusing on a single quality. Rather, we require to take a more holistic approach that integrates multiple facets or principles. Now, in this diagram, we have these green circles, which again represent these ethical requirements. So fairness is something which I deal with, which aims to prevent biased or discriminatory outcomes in AI systems. And there's also human value, which ensures that AI is aligned with human rights and social well-being, and which could enhance our lives rather than causing more harm to individuals and to communities at large. Now, on the other hand, these blue circles, they are critical technical requirements. Explainability, something again which I work with, but which allows AI's decision to be understood by human users, making them easier to interpret. And if they can interpret the results, then the users also developing trust on those results themselves. And then there's transparency, which provides stakeholders with insight on how AI processes work. For example, what the hyperparameters are, what the models were, how did we end up evaluating it, where did we collect the data from? And these all allow for greater oversight and accountability, both in terms of the algorithms and also from the perspective of researchers and developers. Now, according to scholars such as Floridi, transparency is foundational to responsible AI, and it enables stakeholders to understand system actions and developers to explain the whole decision-making process. Fairness, it's emphasized by researchers like Mehrabi, who argue that eliminating bias in AI systems is essential for public trust and for preventing discrimination. So in summary, if we look at the overall picture, trustworthy AI is all about designing AI systems that do not perform just well, not just algorithmic evaluation metrics, but they do so in a manner that respects the ethical values and kind of fosters that confidence among users and stakeholders. As we advance, this framework will guide our efforts to ensure that AI contributes positively to the society, and especially in the decision-making process that impact marginalized communities. And again, this is very important for us as part of SJSU because we are a minority serving institution, a Hispanic serving institution. So again, the marginalized communities are essential for us to think about. Now, again, going back to the bridge analogy. So to bridge this gap between what AI can do and what AI should do, we need a multifaceted approach that goes beyond the technology itself and considers the broader social and ethical dimensions of AI. And this philosophy underpins the three pillars of my impact. I feel research, education, and outreach. So again, these are the three pillars which I feel like could help us bridge the gap between how AI is being used and how we can reach out to the masses, make them more trustworthy, and kind of impact the communities. So let's start with the first pillar, research, right? So in my work, I focus on identifying and mitigating biases within AI systems, understanding how these biases can influence real-world outcomes, and developing methodologies that prioritize fairness-aware methodologies, transparency through explainable models, and accountability. My research is grounded in the belief that trustworthy AI cannot be achieved solely through technical proficiency. It also requires a deep understanding of the whole socio-cultural, socio-technical dynamics, how technology interacts with and impacts cultures and society. Now, this research not only contributes to academic knowledge, but we are also looking at how we can implement them in industries and how we can impact regulatory policies. And therefore, the end goal would be to shape the AI landscape that our communities can trust, that individuals can trust. The second pillar is obviously education, which involves equipping our students and professionals to critically engage with AI. So my goal in teaching is to go beyond technical skills. I try to create like a learning environment that emphasizes the ethical awareness and social responsibility. The aim would again be to skill up and develop AI practitioners, which would be our students as well, who can balance innovation with ethical considerations. Our students should be able to understand both the capabilities of AI and the potential consequences once it's deployed in real world. I do this by using a tool-based curriculum that emphasizes real-world applications, ensuring the accessibility for those with less technical backgrounds. Because I'm part of the School of Information, and a lot of our students comes without those technical backgrounds. So it's essential that we are equipped to teach our students. We cannot just tell them that you're without technical background, so we are not going to teach you what AI is. So we have to kind of break it down for them so that it's easily understandable for them as well. And this approach prepares students to carry the principles of AI and trustworthy AI in across diverse fields when they're in the job market and then they're working professionals. The third pillar, outreach, again, it's closely tied to the education aspect, and it represents my commitment to extending these discussions beyond academia. I believe in engaging the broader community. Particularly in my case, it would be library and information science professionals who play a critical role in information access and digital literacy. We have done different outreach initiatives such as workshops, community talks, professional training sessions, which are opportunities to raise awareness about AI's social impact and also to engage in public dialogue. And my work is not just about disseminating knowledge, but also creating and empowering those communities that can navigate through the most latest developments in AI and also responsibly navigating those challenges. Outreach is essential for making AI literacy inclusive and actionable, which would again ensure that diverse voices are part of the conversation on how AI should be embedded in the society. Now, again, together, these three pillars, research, education, outreach, they should help create like a robust foundation for advancing trustworthy AI. And that's the only way we can make it meaningful. We can impact the society at large. And we are also combining it with academic rigor, educational empowerment, and community engagement. So again, the goal would be to establish an AI ecosystem that's not just effective and efficient, but also fair, ethical, and beneficial for everyone involved. That could be an utopia, but that should be the goal. Now, when I'm talking about my research, it's guided by a core belief, and and the next slide will show you the different interdisciplinarity of my research. But I do feel that AI should contribute positively to the well-being of all communities, and not just those who traditionally have access to these technologies. To achieve this, AI systems need to be more than just efficient, they must be trustworthy. This means that they should be fair, transparent, which would kind of make them free of biases. And again, they should be judged or evaluated based on human-centered values. Accuracy is important, and we have different other metrics as well. But again, we should align them to human-centered values. And in some of my recent projects, I have focused on designing AI systems that enhance transparency, fairness, particularly in the decision-making processes that affect individuals' lives. And these systems have immense potential. And again, when I'm talking about potential and community empowerment, I'm thinking of those marginalized communities who are often the most vulnerable when it comes to biased algorithms. By addressing these biases and creating equitable access, we can develop AI systems that serves as tools for social good. And again, like I said, bridging that gap instead of widening them. And ultimately, my research, it aims to build AI that aligns with those ethical standards and contributes to larger vision of AI that empowers all users, respects diverse values, and supports well-being in different meaningful ways. Now, looking at these slides, I wanted to illustrate the interdisciplinary nature of my research interests and my background. So I come from a very computer science background. I did my bachelor's and my master's in computer science. And I have always felt excited about developing newer technology, working with new technology, implementing things. And my perspective changed when I started my PhD at Rutgers, because for the first time, I was part of the School of Information. And something which was hammered in my head that you just can't develop things, design things, because it's a cool thing to do, because it's a fun thing to do. You have to think about the ramifications, the ultimate impact it will have on people and society. And that's when I started looking into more of the ethical side, the philosophy side of things, the cognitive science aspects of it. So if you look at my research, I have a background in natural language processing and machine learning. So that's where I originally come from. And my exposure to the School of Information and libraries and archives have taught me about the different ethics aspects of it. I also, as I highlighted here, my focus on end users is very central to my research. And human-computer interaction is something which is again close to my heart, because we are not just developing those AI systems in a vacuum. We are developing it for the users who will be interacting with it on as part of their everyday life, sometimes very critical aspects of their usage. And that's why we need to be careful how we integrate them with the lives of the people. And that's where HCI comes, human computer interaction, it comes into play. And my approach is very much mixed methods, where I combine quantitative and computational techniques such as natural language processing, deep neural networks, machine learning, with qualitative methods, which could again include interviews, thematic analysis. And I personally feel there's no saying that one method is better than the other. But at least for my research, it allows me to capture a more comprehensive view, a richer data, a richer analysis of how AI is impacting different users and the society. Because I can look at big numbers, work with huge data sets, and then I can dive deeper into those smaller interview data to see like why people have said certain things, which doesn't go along with what I'm observing in my quantitative data. So again, those make sure that I'm not losing those marginalized people as outliers, which is very common for machine learning algorithms to just classify people who are at the periphery as outliers. So we are not really concerned about them. But again, this mixed methods approach allows me to look deeper into those cases. And in many of my projects, I design experimental studies to gather direct feedback from users, which would again be like people this area of research. This feedback is crucial not only for understanding the needs and experiences of user, but also for refining AI systems to ensure that they align with those, again, ethical and social values. Whether it is for requirement analysis in the early stages of research or for evaluation at the later stages involving users, they provide insights that are often overlooked in purely technical development. So there are three key areas of focus in my research. First would be conversational AI for information search. And again, my natural language processing background helps me work with natural languages. So, and I am particularly interested in how people are searching for information online using natural language. The next would be ethical AI in decision-making systems. And this could include developing AI that supports fair and transparent decision-making processes, minimizing the risks, working towards a human AI collaboration, just so we can make those decisions better. And the third would be human-centered AI for marginalized communities. And this is to ensure that AI systems are inclusive and beneficial to communities that do not have equitable access to technology. It could include bias mitigation, fairness, and reducing those biases which AI models often promote. And that way, these systems can become safer, more mission critical, and more reliable for diverse range of users. And now, again, this Venn diagram is kind of like an overview of how I'm incorporating different aspects. And I do feel that this interdisciplinary approach works well because I'm not siloed down to my particular background or having a tunnel vision where I don't see the broader picture. I also work with a lot of collaborators, both within the School of Information. I have some of my wonderful colleagues as part of my grants who are coming from backgrounds in humanities, in public health, in sociology. And again, I have colleagues in computer science department as well. So I think it allows us to look at the same problem, but through different classes. And I think that's what's important. Like either we involve others who can provide us those different perspectives, or we try to develop those perspectives on our own, which is more difficult, but not impossible. But again, the goal is to keep an open mind about those about this interdisciplinary nature of these problems. Now I will walk you through some of my research. So there's, again, like I mentioned, there's 3 or 4 different areas of research which I mostly focus on, and I'll walk over each of them, and I will point out to some of my recent work. I've kept it mostly to work which I have done over the last 3 years. I've selected some work from there. And in this slide, we are looking at my research in AI and social media. So I use AI to analyze social media data, which is a powerful source of public opinion and real-time information seeking. There are platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Reddit that are spaces for social interaction and also vital tools for gauging kind of the public sentiment, understanding the professional discourse and supporting emergency response efforts. And if we look at a common thread across these studies, I would say it's kind of uncovering how computational methods can provide us with deeper insights based on social media data, and also enhancing our understanding of public and professional opinions, community behaviors, crisis responses. So in the first study, which is to be published in January 25, my colleagues and I, we analyzed Twitter sentiment on US aid to Ukraine, which is a topic of significant geopolitical interest. And again, with whatever happened yesterday, I think it becomes even more important to see why people are behaving, why the public opinion is in a certain kind of way, which may not resonate with how we feel about things. With minimal annotated training data, which was available for us, we compared different methods, and these are all sample efficient methods, which works with less to minimal training data. And we tried to uncover public opinion across the different US states. So we looked at different US states based on the map. Lebanon, Kentucky, I think that was the geographical center of the United States. We looked there, and then we went across all the states, and we observed how different states, how people in these states are talking about this US aid to Ukraine. And this research kind of demonstrates how large language models like GPT, and when we combine them with sample efficient methods like few-shot learning, they can provide us with a more accurate sentiment analysis. And we kind of saw opinions that did not align with traditional media surveys. And this study highlights the value of social media as an alternative lens for public sentiment. And we do acknowledge that the influence of algorithmic bias and echo chambers in this paper as well. So we look at that in as well. The second study focuses on crisis informatics, and it's an area central to library and information science research. This was a panel discussion which I presented a few weeks back, and it brought together researchers who were all exploring how social media can support disaster response and information dissemination across during crisis. Now, the goal is by facilitating a cross-disciplinary dialogue, we are aiming to advance crisis informatics research by collaborating with maybe government officials, library professionals, and the goal is to improve preparedness and response strategies. This work kind of shows the importance of social media as a real-time communication channel that can support communities during emergencies. The third study, Voices of the Stacks, it examines the discourse of academic librarians on Twitter, comparing conversations from United States, Canada, and United Kingdom. Again, this study was done right after the pandemic, and we were seeing the great resignation. So we wanted to see how public librarians were talking about their workplace and how we can improve those experiences. And by using sentiment analysis and thematic analysis, we uncovered differences in the concerns and topics librarians from each region they prioritize. The study shed light on how professional communities use social media for knowledge exchange, and we found some significant distinction on how employment-related topics are being discussed in the US and in the UK. And lastly, our research on Reddit's advice community, especially the AITA and the relationships subreddits. And we saw how users in these forums, they navigate cultural norms and seek advice. We analyzed the linguistic patterns, the sentiment, the demographic disclosures, and examined how language varies based on community context, and also identified the gender differences in language use. This study again shows how digital communities can serve as spaces for identity expression and advice seeking, and with broader social patterns which are often reflected in online interactions. Now, collectively, these studies, they demonstrate the versatility of social media as a data source where we can analyze public opinion and then understand like professional and community interactions. And if we are combining that with advanced computational techniques, we can also explore diverse social phenomena and provide insights that we cannot usually do just looking at traditional media sources. Now, building on our prior research in social media analysis, some of the ongoing projects, they aim at deepening those understanding, how social media as a real-time information dissemination, crisis response, and public opinion platform. And now each of these projects, they reflect the relationship between AI, social media, and society. And then the focus is again on ethics and inclusivity. In one of the projects, we are exploring the integration of large language model for real-time content generation during crisis. Now, since we have the generative AI boom currently ongoing, we know that we can generate text rapidly using large language models, and we could use them for emergency communication, helping disseminate critical information swiftly. However, we are also aware that this could lead to issues about data trustworthiness and ethics. So our focus here is on ensuring that the AI-generated content is both accurate and free from biases and free from misinformation, biased narratives. And we know that if those percolate down during crisis information seeking, then we could have some serious repercussions. So again, ensuring that the information is correct and ethically compliant. We are also examining privacy considerations because these models are deployed in sensitive and high-stake scenarios. Next, I'm working on strengthening the role of public libraries as crisis response hubs. And we are looking at underserved or marginalized communities in particular. Public libraries, they're trusted institutions within these communities, which makes them ideal centers for information dissemination during emergencies. So our research, we aim to explore how libraries can leverage digital tools and social media to enhance their crisis response capabilities. And just to make sure that the vulnerable population are safe during those emergency and crisis situations. And lastly, we are investigating some synthetic data generation and multimodal analysis, which involves both text and visual content to gain understanding of public opinion. For example, one of our current project on TikTok, and I think I saw my RA, Ketan, here in the audience as well. We are focusing on analyzing public opinion related to the Israel-Palestine conflict. Now, TikTok is a very different platform. We have, it's highly visual, it's rapidly growing. I don't have a TikTok account myself, so I had to rely on my undergrad students and my graduate students to kind of understand how information is kind of spreading those in this platform in particular. So it provides us a unique lens into how the younger generation, they are sharing information, how they're processing information. And this project, it applies multimodal analysis techniques. So we are looking at the text, we are looking at the video, we are looking at the captions which are being generated, the comments, and also the audio to kind of like capture the picture of public sentiment, opinion, trends, stances, and so on. So it's a very interesting work which we're currently involved in. And these ongoing efforts, they reflect our commitment to advancing responsible AI applications within social media, and especially in crisis contexts and marginalized communities. Next, I will focus on my research in conversational search systems, which is something which is core to my heart, and it's an important aspect of HCI, human-computer interaction, that seeks to make AI interactions more natural, intuitive, friendlier. And conversational search involves AI systems capable of holding dynamic, multi-turn dialogues with the user in natural language and making it very distinct from what we know with our simple voice command systems. This is not just turning on the light or turning down the AC. It's more about how we can talk to these systems to clarify our searches. And again, studies represented here share that common objective, how we can improve the user experiences by understanding conversational agents and teaching them how to better engage with users in complex information seeking tasks. Again, the first study, we investigated the role of system clarifications in user experience. It was a Wizard of Oz study where the human played the role of conversational system. And we evaluated if explicit system clarifications, they provide explanations about the search process, the system actions, and how they enhance the search experience. Our findings showed that clarification did not positively impact user search experience, and it did diminish their experience in certain contexts. And this challenges the existing assumptions that transparency in conversational systems are what the user truly wants. But again, the results were counterintuitive, so which shows that the timing and nature of clarifications are crucial. So we should be looking at the information gained through these turns, and which is what we did in the second study, where we explored the economics of conversational search sessions, and we applied economic models to evaluate conversational search sessions, and we analyzed the costs and benefits of the search actions to understand their impact on user satisfaction and task success. And what we predicted was, using regression models, we tried to predict user satisfaction. And we had variables such as turn taking, time investment, and it's an initial step towards creating a mathematical model that could help us optimize the conversational search by balancing the amount of interaction involved with the user satisfaction. And the third study, this research actually won a nomination for the Vannevar Bush Best Paper Award at JCDL last year. And we addressed the challenge of translating user intentions and search intentions to be precise into appropriate search actions on the system side. So we use some concepts from computational linguistics. We look at speech acts in user dialogues, which could be requests for information or clarification. And we try to predict the system level action, which would maximize the satisfaction of the users. Again, we use attention-based neural networks, and our model was pretty accurate in classifying the speech and search actions, which was a good outcome to have. And lastly, in this paper, Can You Search For Me? We analyze the limitations of current voice-based personal assistants in handling complex multi-turn search tasks. We did a laboratory study. We examined how commercial assistants, they fall short of user expectation for conversational searches. And we proposed some design guidelines. We asked those systems to be more anthropomorphic, aiming for more engaging and effective user interaction experience. And again, there's two more studies, which I'll walk through quickly. One was the first one here. It questions the assumption that conversational agents must be human-like. And we use the framework based on human needs. And it's a Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. And we explore design consideration and potential ethical implications of human-like features in conversational systems. So we kind of play the devil's advocate here, discuss the pros and cons, and see what actually works for users and what enhances their satisfaction. And in the second study, which is very technical in nature, we focus on identifying the user intent, again, through speech act classification. So we developed a multi-channel deep attention network that achieved a very high accuracy rate in classifying the speech acts for task-oriented dialogues. And it did outperform the then state-of-the-art models like BERT. And again, this research is a technical advance in understanding user requests, search requests, and lays the groundwork for creating voice-based conversational agents that can more accurately interpret and fulfill user needs. And there are some grants which I have received or applied for in this area. The first was the RISCA. Actually, the first would be the RISCA seed grant, which I have here in the second one, and which kind of seeks to integrate sentiment analysis in conversational search sessions by making our models more explainable, more sentiment aware. We aim to improve the user trust and satisfaction. This study aims to assess, and it's an ongoing study, the effectiveness of sentiment-aware models and how to best visualize the system explanations. So again, this research will guide future developments in sentiment-aware conversational systems, making those more transparent and user-centered. And there's a pending NSF career project, which is titled Clear AI. And this is an attempt in understanding biases in conversational AI, particularly for the Latinx community. And this project examines how biases in large language models, they can affect the user experience, and seeks to develop explainable methods for detecting those biases, mitigating those biases algorithmically. In addition, we are also developing some cognitively aware interfaces. So those would be intervention interfaces with human in the loop, which would kind of stop users or provide users with certain explanations when the system responses are using biased data or providing biased results. So again, goal is to develop those conversational systems that are more fair and trustworthy. And together, they kind of show that conversational search systems, they need to understand and appropriately respond to user queries within a context-rich dialogue. And again, their responses should be bias-free, sentiment-aware, and more catered to what the user really wants. And if we know that the user may not be able to judge the biases present, we should kind of proactively provide them with some kind of intervention that will help them judge the quality and the presence of biases in the responses. Now, the next area of my research would be integrating AI into library and archival systems, where, again, we are looking to enhance the operational efficiency in these vital institutions while staying ethical and transparent. So as digital collections, they're growing and the demand for streamlined access are increasing, AI does offer some promising solutions for addressing different challenges in information retrieval, record keeping, and archival management. In the first paper, we discussed some of the insights on how we can apply AI to streamline archival process, mostly in appraisal and selection process, which are traditionally time-consuming and subjective. In the second paper, which is a systematic review and which is again currently under a review process, it provides an analysis of how AI is being utilized in archival science. The review documents the different methods and strategies employed to manage the expanding volume of records, addressing tasks like retention, disposition, and organization. And the third paper, which we will present this year at the JCDL conference, and that focuses on AI's transformative potential within library services. And our research reviews how AI technologies from recommendation systems to informational chatbots, they can enhance the user experience in both public and academic libraries. And by automating some of the routine tasks, like cataloging, improving the resource discovery, AI can make library services more responsive to what the user really wants. And lastly, another one of the grant projects, I'm part of the Interpares Trust AI project, which is funded by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. I'm collaborating with colleagues from all over US and Canada and also Europe to explore how AI can support retention and disposition in digital record keeping. And the second project is on personal information content assessment, where we are trying to identify PIIs in archival records and how we can redact those information automatically. Now, some of the projects which we are developing currently. The first project is titled What You Grab in a Fire, AI-Assisted Automatic Cataloging for Crisis. And we submitted both of these projects to IMLS, which is Institution of Museum and Library Services this year. And we are waiting for their feedback. And in the first one, we try to address the need for libraries to maintain access to critical information during emergencies. Again, we will use a mixed methods approach to investigate how large language models can support large-scale automated cataloging with human-in-the-loop design. And first, we are trying to integrate the large language models into the cataloging process to generate accurate and context-sensitive metadata for books, reports, and scholarly publications. And next, we will design human AI workflows that can incorporate the librarian feedback for refinement and ethical oversight. And finally, we will kind of like iteratively refine and disseminate the system and test its adaptability across diverse application environments within libraries. The second project, Genival, we are exploring educational potential of generative AI. And our target users here are our graduate students in library and information science program. And we are grounding the project in Bloom's digital taxonomy, making advantage of the taxonomy of educational objectives. And it's a framework that structures learning objectives from basic knowledge acquisition to higher order thinking skills. So by investigating two core research questions, we aim to develop AI teaching modules that will align with Bloom's digital taxonomy and help students achieve better learning outcomes. Now, we look at two new projects, which are again aimed at fostering trustworthy and explainable AI systems. And again, this is a new area of research for risk management, where we are looking at human AI collaborations, and we are trying to improve the decision making of the humans. And my first project, again, the Clear AI, which I already discussed, focuses on bias mitigation in large language model-based conversational systems. And again, we seek to identify, understand, and reduce biases in AI interactions with Latinx users. And we are leveraging cognitive science theories to design explainable interfaces. And we are using cognitive forcing as well as model explainability to build those trustworthy AI systems. The second project, La Casa, which is legally, algorithmically, and culturally aware systems of accountability, we are addressing the broader need for accountable AI systems, and particularly in predictive models that affect decision-making across various domains. And this work was funded by the VPRI Teaming Award by the SJSU Office of Research. So thank you for that. And together, I think these projects, they all show the importance of human AI collaboration in promoting fair, transparent, contextually aware systems. Now, I will jump into education and outreach, and I know I'm running out of time. And I feel like these are central to my mission as a teacher scholar. while advanced research and technical developments are crucial from academic perspectives, but we also need to educate our students, professionals, and the public about AI, ethical AI, in ways that are not just informative, but are also accessible, ethical, and aligned with their cultural values. Now, at the School of Information, I have developed 2 new courses tailored for MLIS students. The first is problem solving with data, and the second would be math for machine learning. And again, these 2 courses, they focus on equipping students with skills in statistics, data analysis, machine learning, and computational thinking. These are all critical in managing the digital data and the world of information science. And I have also played a key role. I have helped start and grow the bachelor's undergraduate program in information science and data analytics, which now provides undergraduates with a pathway to careers in data science and AI. We allow degree completion programs to students from community colleges. So again, trying to address those equity concerns. At the College of Information Data and Society, which used to be CPG, I'm leading initiatives to create a certificate and an interdisciplinary minor in human-centered AI. We are planning to launch the certificate in fall 25 and the minor in fall 2026 if everything goes well. We need approvals and the due processes, but we are hopeful that we can get that started in time. And these programs, they are designed to serve students across disciplines. So our goal is not just to reach out to technical students with technical backgrounds, but to anyone who wants to know more about AI. And our focus is on ethical and social considerations. So now, beyond university, I'm deeply committed to advancing the AI literacy within the professional community. And again, like I mentioned, the LIS practitioners. I chaired the Idea Institute on AI, which was in innovation, disruption, inquiry, and access. And this program we offered 16 online modules covering a range of topics related to AI, from basics to advanced application. And the session was attended by more than 100 LIS professionals. And it was like a 4-day workshop, and was received very good reviews from professionals and students in library and information science. And also in partnership with the American Library Association, I am developing an AI 101 course, which is specifically designed for library professionals. So again, it will introduce fundamental AI concepts and ethical considerations, kind of ensuring that library staff can approach AI technologies with confidence and discernment. And towards end the presentation, I will talk about the Circle project, which is a cross-campus interdisciplinary responsible computing learning experience. And it's an initiative funded by Mozilla Foundation through the Responsible Computing Challenge. And as part of this initiative, we have revised the curriculum for several key courses. You could see the Introduction to Computer Vision, which my colleague Nada Attar worked on, Problem Solving with Data, which I teach at our MLIS program. To extend the impact beyond the classroom, we launched the Circle Speaker Series, which has been both in-person and virtual. And we have had more than 100 attendees on campus and more than 500 online participants, where we discussed responsible computing and ethical considerations. We also developed a responsible computing action guide, new Canvas modules on ethical AI, computer vision, data privacy, and cybersecurity. And lastly, we created the Circle Sandbox, which should be available to the public soon. And it's a hands-on interactive environment where you can bring in your own data and experiment with it. So you can work with multiple explainable AI learning algorithms. And the tool will provide students the importance of transparency. They can check how features they are important and how removing certain features will affect the prediction models. So again, Circle was more than just developing technical proficiency. We wanted to shape the new generation of students. And the partnership of SJSU and Knight Foundation, it was also mentioned in the White House fact sheet. So we were really proud of that as well. And one of the grants that we are currently preparing is NSF Expand AI grant, which is Beyond Fate, Trustworthy AI Learning and Working in Diversity. We call it Tailwind. And it's targeting to bring together a diverse coalition of partners. So we have our partners at San Jose State, obviously, but Rutgers University, University of Maryland, Inter-Paris, and even the city of San Jose's GovAI coalition. Again, we are trying to address some of the most pressing social challenges which often influences marginalized communities. And that includes homelessness, workforce development, health information seeking, and digital privacy. And a key emphasis of Tailwind is on creating an inclusive and trustworthy AI environment. And one of the innovative aspects which we have is to focus on natural language-based counterfactual explanation methods for large language models. Now, as we look ahead, my commitment is to advancing AI literacy, expanding programs, empowering people. And one of the frameworks that guide my approach is the HHH framing. If you want, you can look at it. It's developed by Haskell. It's called helpful, honest, and harmless. And again, similar to Asimov's laws of robotics, we are trying to develop things which are more aligned to human values. And I hope that this presentation has provided some insight on where my research lies and how, when AI is developed responsibly, we can bridge those socio-technical divide and kind of tie in with community well-being. With that, I would provide a huge shout out to my lab, my students, and all my collaborators. If you're a student or faculty who wants to collaborate, please reach out to me. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions now.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. There is a number of questions in the Q&A if you want to open it up and take a shot at a few of them, or I can pick one or two real quick. I think too, we'll have a hard time probably getting through all of them in the next 10 minutes or so. So we might download them and then you can respond to some of them as well. So do you want to take some of them up right here?
Yeah, so I'll start at the top, but if you see any question which requires a particular attention, just point that out to me. And again, those questions which I can't answer, I'd be happy to answer them offline or over email as well. Is there a reasonable concern in the work around closing those social and ethical gaps for responsible implementation of AI about the environmental aspects of the energy use required for such intense computing process? Yes, an excellent question. I think we are trying to focus on smaller models. We are trying to kind of work with smaller models and more explainable, more suited for niche applications, reusing some of those models, but I cannot ignore the fact that they are computationally intensive. And one of my colleagues, Sasha Liccioni, she does a lot of work on environmental impacts, and I think that's very important to be aware of. But yeah, I think that's a major concern, and we are hoping that eventually we'll strike a balance where the benefits of AI would kind of offset those environmental challenges, or we learn how to develop more environmentally friendly models there. But to be honest, I don't have the answer yet. I think it's a work in progress. When utilizing, yeah, please go ahead.
Let me jump down to one because I think it's interesting. How would you see trustworthy AI best leverage to support emerging bilingual community members with both language acquisition and content comprehension simultaneously? I think it's a really interesting question about bilingualism and their intersection with natural language processing and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's a very interesting question. Like in the past, I have worked with several Indian languages because that's where my background is, and those are all low resource languages. So I think the challenges with low resources, we do not have all the bells and whistles which we find for English language. So I think working with the community is of utmost importance. I think in one of the projects we are trying to work with native tribes and with the indigenous people. I think they have a very low resource environment where it's hard to develop anything with our traditional resources. So I think working with those communities closely, knowing those cultural nuances, I think that's very important, that even as developers, we know what they're working with. As a community, I think we should pay more attention to those bilingual, non-English communities. I think LREC is part of one of those which works with the low resource languages, but I think we should have more as part of even other conferences. We should have special tracks for them, special so as to encourage researchers that you should go and work with those low resource languages.
That's helpful. I think it segues with Anthony's question a bit on the tension between the user consumer experience and AI's more complex relation to scholarship. And it actually segues with the first question up there on copyright and who owns information and the ethics, and particularly given sort of the context we're in, how do we manage that? And you had mentioned early on even removing bias. That's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So how does that all play into these systems?
Yes, and I should begin with the disclaimer that I don't know the perfect answer to this yet. But one goal, and we were discussing this even at the conference last week, that one way of doing this would be to watermark everything which is produced by humans. So not watermarking the AI content, but watermarking the human content. Because in today's world, what we are seeing is AI content is being produced at a much more exponential rate than how humans generate data. So in over the next few years, what we'll see is our all our resources will be flooded with AI generated content. So it would be helpful to kind of watermark everything which we have generated by humans, so we can work with those copyright issues and again anything which requires permission from the author. So I think that's the tension which Anthony is talking about here.
And what about some of the implications for increasing use of conversational AI in places where more traditional IR systems like search engines exist?
Yeah, and we have to go back to the history of information retrieval and how it was envisioned. It was never envisioned to be a search, to be a query and response system. So that's how we got used to those search systems, because we are more accustomed to framing our queries in a way that the system gives back those search engine result page, which are often biased on their own. So I think Google search is not the perfect way to go. But I think this conversational AI, what it allows us to do, users do not often know what they're searching for. When they're interacting in natural language with the systems, they can clarify what they're looking for, which provides a better picture of their search intent, the problematic situation. And I think the system is able to decipher the user intent better and provide more relevant information as a feedback. So I think conversational AI, I would say they would replace traditional IR systems, except when it comes to more complex data like lists and so on. But yeah.
So I think as one last question for here, Michelle has a pretty robust question about multifaceted and participatory approaches for human-centric and ethical methodology. And she raises a number of questions around, ensuring veracity and dialogic responses and dealing with marginalized voices of indigenous cultures and inherent bias in some of the chat GPT and other AIs. And even nonverbal communication. This is a very verbal system. So how do we start to think about all these questions that are emerging as well in the context of what you're doing?
Yeah, and that's a very interesting question. So I have thought about this problem because I think we were discussing how to solve this issue. And one way, again, we would have to start by understanding those marginalized voices first. As a researcher who focuses on computational things, I'm not an expert in that. So we need to collaborate with people who are able to figure out those nonverbal communication cues. And we need to translate those cues into data sets. And once we have those data, I think then we can start building our own generative AI models, which could be smaller, but could be applicable in more niche areas. And we could see that, and then we have to evaluate how it's performing. Again, when I say we, it's not we, it's probably the community itself. They have to evaluate how we are capturing their language, their dialogue patterns.
I really appreciate that as a final note on the interdisciplinary nature of this work and that these problems exceed any one area. So thank you so much for sharing all your research. We really appreciate it. It's been absolutely fabulous. For everybody online, the talk will be published soon and you'll be able to see it. And if we missed any questions, we'll make sure Dr. Ghosh gets a chance to reach back out to you. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.